When we look around the world and see the challenges and opportunities around education and the power of youth, we could look at this with a negative connotation, half empty, or a positive connotation, half full. Let's take the positive aspect. Yes, we see the opportunities, as His Excellency just talked about, when we bring private, public, and youth together to solve this challenge. JANU is a great example of that. It's proven to be successful. Now the question is, how can we scale it bigger and faster? Yes, we see the opportunity for business to be in the middle of this conversation more so than ever before. And we see the evidence that CEOs, leadership teams are stepping up to that challenge, playing a role not only to define what they need, but rather helping society move forward. Yes, we see the challenge in terms of education, our youth, and the resulting economic implications. But yes, we can and will solve for that problem. The reason I start with these 4 yes statements is because, as the moderator said, we at PwC, in conjunction with JANU and UNICEF, just launched a thought leadership piece to raise the awareness and to call to action the necessary steps to address this issue. That research shows the following. In the last 2 decades, the amount of youth in our worldwide population has increased by 30% in an absolute number, as well as a percentage of the overall population. That's from 1999 to 2019. However, over that same period, the labor participation by that youth, ages 15 to 24, has decreased as a percentage as well as an absolute to the tune of 12 to 15%. An unfathomable challenge, and unfortunately, an implication that has negative consequences to the individuals, our future, to communities, and society at large. The reality is, this unfortunately has been exacerbated by 2 major phenomenons. First, corporations around the world are focused very much so in terms of leveraging the capabilities of technology to focus on the improvements they can make in terms of productivity gains and other aspects. And yes, while those CEOs see the challenges and that they are unable and unequipped to grow without the right skill sets, they continue to move forward with the fact that they are going to make the needed changes to leverage those technologies, which will have downstream implications to future employment and the future of work. COVID is the second big thing that we have already talked about in terms of the implication. And unfortunately, we've seen 20% of that youth actually disengage entirely from the labor force or disengage from the education that is needed to enable them to join the workforce. A fundamental challenge that we have to solve for much differently. So the report points out these issues to raise the awareness, and it calls out 3 specific things that we need to be focused on as a society. First, our youth, our government, and for that matter, even business, needs to do a better job of articulating the skills we will need for the future. Government and business to do that, to put the policies and procedures in place, and to change the education system that we have today. But likewise, our future leaders, need to know the skills so they are incented to lean in to the opportunities to gain access to those capabilities. And the reality is, business now actually has to step up to get to the second piece of the pie, which is how do we actually provide the opportunity to acquire those skills? So identifying and acquiring them. Here, our education system has to change radically. As was said by the earlier panel, we actually have to come together. And here, the business community, working with government, working with education systems, actually has to be part of that ecosystem. No longer just dictating what skills are needed and demanding of it of our education system, but rather business to be part of the education system and morphing themselves into an extension of the education that exists. Identification and acquisitions is 2/3 of the story. The last one is the concepts of certificates or trust and identification that our youth or others well beyond just the youth have acquired those skills. Educators will want to trust that they have had those skill sets. Historically, we have depended on a degree, an undergraduate degree, a graduate degree, or otherwise. That was the minimum base requirement, perhaps, or a vocational education to actually give the credibility to those individuals to be worthy of and have the opportunity to interview for those jobs. That is no longer the sole way to do this. We fundamentally have to think differently about the certification and trust that people have actually acquired those skills such that they can then be matched to where the opportunities come. And the matching of supply, meaning the skill sets that exist with credentials and the demand coming for more entrepreneurship, have to be matched faster and quicker to meet the demand and create the opportunities for the youth of the future and the citizens of the world. In order to do this, there's 4 key steps that we have focused on. First, let's make sure that we can create a skill mapping system, country by country and worldwide. Many organizations, for example, the World Economic Forum and others like that, are in the process of doing that. But we need to do more so with speed and urgency and apply it at the local level. Second, we need to use corporates more so than ever before to create that national skill building exercise by working together in a collaborative way, again, with youth, public and private at the table. We were able to do this, and GenU has demonstrated we can and should be able to scale that up bigger than ever before. Third is to start to build out digital as well as other skill set verification processes, making sure that they are credentialed to the extent they have done the necessary homework and have leaned into the opportunities to learn. But we need to create the incentives for people to want to learn. And that's important because this is not just an idealistic one-way opportunity. It's a two-way opportunity for our youth and our governments and business to actually both lean in together. And last but not least is to make sure that we come together nationally, regionally, and globally in terms of multi-stakeholder forums to come together to learn fast, fail fast, adjust fast, and scale up as quickly as possible. Prior to this session, His Excellency and I were talking about the fact that those that will do well will be those that are agile, nimble, can move fast, scale up quickly, and learn from others and leverage those opportunities. These are the challenges and opportunities that we have here today. And this is the dialogue we'll have as we describe differently and more in depth the opportunities from GenU and other forums like it that give us the opportunity and the hope and the promise to get to the yes we can address, reaching yes and addressing our youth employment and skilling challenges and opportunities for them as individuals and us collectively as humanity. Thank you very much for the time today.